started. Hello and happy Valentine's Day. I think we are live everywhere. This is so cool. I'm finally here. It took a few minutes, but I am here and I'm so happy to be here. If we've never met before, I'm going to give you a breakdown of who I am, but this is my first live on LinkedIn, live on YouTube, live on Instagram. I see you, so say hello wherever you are. So I wanted to just kick off today with talking about my Burniversary. It's not the most romantic of topics, but we're going right into it. 11 years ago, I burnt out and I ended up in an emergency room due to workplace burnout. So if you want to know that story, I'm here to tell it today. So stick around for my first live. Now, if we've never met before, I'm Lauren Baptiste. I'm your trustworthy Big Four dropout turned burnout coach. And you are part of something really special today. For months, for years, I've been asked, when are you going to do a podcast? When are you going to write a book? I'm not launching a book today. I'm not launching a podcast today, but I am going to be alive a lot more. And I am here to say hello. My goal, if we've never met before, is to help you with burnout strategies, simple tactics, and mindset tools specifically catered to the modern accountant, consultant, and attorney. So if you're ready, join me for today's special Valentine's episode. So I just wanted to first say happy Valentine's Day. I'm wearing pink. Even though this is 11 years since I burnt out and I ended up in a hospital, it's still Valentine's Day for 99.9999% of the audience out there. So I hope you're having a wonderful Valentine's Day. If you can chat with me, tell me what you're doing today. Do you have any fun plans? Any dinners? Are you celebrating over the long weekend? What's your plan? I want to know. I hope you're having a wonderful Valentine's. But I always like to say Valentine's starts with loving yourself. A few years ago, I did a video and it was talking about 3 ways to love yourself, but that's not for today. But really make sure that even if there's someone else that is your Valentine, that you are your forever Valentine. But love to the Galentines as well. Now, as we get into today's story, I wanted to just take a moment and share a little bit about the clients that I work with. I mentioned that I work with accountants, consultants, and attorneys. So I wanted to share one of the testimonials from a client that I recently worked with who's an audit manager. Her name is Oika. So she said when she looked back on where she was at this point 1 year ago, she couldn't be more different. In the past year, working with Lauren has been such an incredible journey for me. I've retained so many important habits that contribute to my well-being. Mentally, I feel like I'm sharper and stronger. I take better care of myself physically, and overall, I'm just happier. My life is more aligned. Lauren is just one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. She's so professional and she doesn't judge. It's easy to open up to her and talk to her about the changes you want to make. And I promise you won't be disappointed when you start working with her. So thank you, Awika. I always love sharing testimonial. I love sharing client successes. This is what gets me out of bed every morning. And I will tell you, 11 years ago, I did not think I'd be here. So let's talk about my story because I was working at a Big Four accounting firm. And initially, when I burnt out, I was always thinking, wow, it was my firm. It was the company. It was the boss. It was the fill in the blank. And I never took responsibility for it. But what I come to realize was that that actually isn't fully true. So what happened to me 11 years ago, I had recently transitioned between roles. I was working in audit and I switched to advisory. Because I was put on an engagement that needed immediate assistance, there was no training. I was just brought onto the engagement and I was told, you got to go. We need you. Start working. Now, the differences between a consultant skill set and an account skill set are very different. One is more Excel, one is more PowerPoint. Both have their pluses, but also just definitely a transition going from something that I had never done before into something new. I was open for the challenge. I wanted to transfer into this group because I was so excited for it. And I was so excited to travel. For the first time in my years of working from audit, now moving into advisory, I was traveling. My first engagement, Minneapolis, Minnesota, in this time of year, February. It was so cold that I had to buy a new coat. I asked if I could expense it. That was a no. But I bought new coat. I had to get all this different clothes and gear because I just wasn't used to that cold of temperatures. I am from New York and I'm looking out my window and there's 8 inches of snow, but the wind chill out there is below zero, and that is just something I'm not used to. Anyway, so now I'm coming into this new role. I'm coming into an urgent job. I'm coming into just a new location. There's a lot going on. Now, rewinding a bit, I was coming from a role where I was already feeling overworked. I was already feeling overwhelmed, and I wanted something different because moving into consulting felt sexier. It felt more exciting. It felt like the thing that I had just wanted, that felt like the shiny new object. So I had moved in that direction. But what I quickly come to realize was that it's still work. And I was still working a lot and I was still overwhelmed, even though I had new work. And I was still feeling fatigued, even though I had a new boss. And I was still feeling like I couldn't handle everything going on. And my mind just kept saying, keep pushing through, you'll figure it out, just keep going. And that worked for weeks, weeks and weeks and weeks. And finally, my body shut down. So my manager, my senior manager and I, we were a team of 3 working on a project. We were out to dinner. We were at the hotel bar. That was our dinner. That was like the one break we had all day before we went back to work on this engagement. And I remember out of nowhere, I don't remember what we were talking about, but all of a sudden I started to feel something happening to my body. Like I was either like having some kind of allergic reaction. I remember I was eating fish at the time and I was like, oh, maybe I'm just having a reaction to the fish. And my team was like, yeah, that's probably the case. And I was like, okay, I need to go and take care of myself. But the closest doctor, there was no, now there's like kind of these like city meds everywhere. But for me, I was like, well, there's nothing open where we are. I think I need to go to the emergency room. So I grabbed my stuff. I'm feeling this allergy. It's getting worse. And I start to make my way. Before I leave, my manager says, hey, make sure you take your laptop with you. We still have work that has to get done. So I grab my laptop, get in the cab, make my way to the hospital. I sit in the waiting room for a while, but I'm telling them like I'm feeling a little bit in my throat, I'm feeling a little bit in my body, there's some stuff going on. They pretty much like red roped me right to the front. I was able to get access right away and I was like, oh, that's probably not a good thing. So they looked at me fairly quickly and right away they saw that I was having an allergic reaction. So it took a while between like getting into the room and then waiting for a doctor and then getting seen and then getting the medication, but all relatively quickly. I got over-the-counter Benadryl. It like essentially removed all of my symptoms right away and I was better. Okay, so I had to sit there with the medicine, make sure that it worked, make sure that things were going well. Okay, fine. So finally, I get discharged around 2 a.m. I email my team once I'm in the cab saying, hey, I'm back in the cab. I'm on my way back. It's 2 a.m. I'll see you in the morning. I went back to work the next day. And first, we all drive together because we were 3 people. So we met in the lobby. They said, how are you doing? I said, okay. And then once we got to the office, my manager asks me, so what did you get done last night? And without fail, my body broke into hives again. And so I started to feel this allergic reaction all up my body. And I just went to the bathroom. I looked at myself. I just checked my shoulder. I checked my stomach. All of a sudden, I had hives again. I had never had hives in my life before. So this was a pretty overwhelming experience for me. I walked back into the room. I said, it's happening again. And I'm going to the hospital again. I grabbed my computer. I grabbed my stuff. I jumped in a cab and I left. Now I was scheduled, this was Valentine's Day. Day 2 of me going back to the hospital was Valentine's Day. I was supposed to fly home, supposed to have a date. I was supposed to have a normal day. And I could already tell it was 8 or 9 a.m. and I wasn't going to have a normal day. I went back to the hospital. It took a while this time to get in and to be seen. I was finally seen. the doctor comes to me and starts asking me different questions. The first night I was getting questions of like, where are you feeling the reaction? What's going on? The second day, the doctor starts saying, tell me about your work. Tell me about your life. Tell me about what's going on. And I started to explain new role, travel, all of the things. And he goes, okay, I think I know what's going on here. He turns on the TV, he turns on HGTV, and he goes, I'll be back in 2 hours. See you later. And he walks out, no medicine, no diagnosis, no prognosis, no nothing, just sit and watch TV. Now, I was in the hospital, there was no Wi-Fi. I barely had service. So all I could literally do was watch TV. After 2 hours, my hives had gone away. After 2 hours, he comes back in and he starts talking to me, telling me, I think you're experiencing a symptom of stress. And if you don't take care of what's going on now, there's a good chance it's only going to get worse from here, right? You might not make it, keep going. It's only going to exacerbate. So that really shook me up. In that moment, I was just looking to get discharged. I was looking to go home. I was looking to hopefully still have a Valentine's Day that felt normal. And luckily, I did get discharged on time. Luckily, I did make my flight home on time. I did make it home, but I was a zombie by the time I made it to my date. And I realized something has to change. I wasn't quite sure at that moment, but I knew something had to change, something big. This is not going to be my forever. Now, at this time, 11 years ago, there weren't as many stories about burnout, right? Burnout wasn't even a diagnosable thing until 2018, I believe, when the World Health Organization said burnout was an occupational phenomenon. So for me, in that moment, I wasn't quite sure what I needed to do, but I knew something had to change. Now, why do I share this story? I could go into every single detail of this story, but what I want to really highlight were a few things. There were things that went wrong on my end. I could blame my manager for telling me to bring my laptop as he knew I was going to the ER. I could blame a tough job for not training me up on my new engagement, right? I could do that, but that's not the road I decided to take. I decided to look inward because I knew if I started looking for a new job, there's a good chance I would take some of these tendencies or personality traits with me. I'm a type A person, people pleaser, perfectionist. And that was the smoke before the fire that led to my burnout months prior to the event at the hospital. So I tell this to you not to say, let's take all the blame and make ourselves feel really bad about the situation, but it's to say, let's shine light on what really happened. Yes, were the circumstances challenging? Absolutely. But did I have more control in the situation than I thought? Yes, 100%. I could have told my boss at the moment, no, I'm not bringing my laptop to the ER and don't expect me to work when I get back. I could have said at 2 a.m. when I wasn't feeling so good that I'm not going back to the office today. I'm taking the day off or I'm going straight home. I can pick up things when I get home if I'm feeling up to it. A lot of times when we're in these high intensity pressure situations, when we're client serving, when we are maybe not at the top, even for a partner, maybe we're not a managing partner, maybe we're not a senior partner. So I work with a lot of women now who are partners and higher ups, but they still are reporting to somebody. We're always reporting to somebody, whether you own your own business now that I do, or you're working in a firm and you're working for someone. So the reality is that we need the tools and the techniques to manage these stressors before they become full-fledged burnout. Now, I share my story because I've heard from countless of your stories that you've experienced similar issues. Early onset diabetes, infertility, depression, anxiety. These are just some of the many things that come to me. I've heard others who have had blood clots and then received calls and as they're in the hospital from their bosses telling them to log on. Early labor and then still getting calls from their teams. We need to change the culture of how we work, and it starts with us. So instead of me running away from the accounting profession or the consulting profession, wherever, depending on which bucket I was in, I was actually in tax too. So I definitely had the trifecta of all of the things. But what I will say is we need to change the culture, and it starts with us. If we don't know how to manage our time, if we don't know how to stop people pleasing, if we don't know how to communicate effectively, if we don't know how to stay organized, these are the things that then permeate. And a lot of the times when I'm speaking with all of you, you're not just starting out. You are partners, senior managers, principals. You are the leadership of today and tomorrow. And if you don't want to continue to perpetuate this cycle, then you need to decide that now is the time that something changes. Now, I've shared my story. I will be sharing it day after day for the next 5 days, right? I'm on day 3 of my story on my social and in my posts, but I'm also sharing this live because I know many of you value hearing the story, feeling the story, and responding to the story. So many of you in the past few days have sent me messages about your situation, that you were also told to bring your laptop or worked in an ER on your computer. Others of you told me that you have been messaged by your boss. Right? There's so many similar stories to mine when I thought I was alone, but there's also a lot of other stories where I want to quit. I don't want to do this anymore. I feel like I have no time with my kids. I'm not present with my husband. I'm starting to lose it. And I didn't get that recent promotion. So I'm really fatigued and I'm lost and I'm stuck and I don't know what to do. These are the stories that I hear every single day. So if nothing else, for today, I wanted to share my story to put it out there and let you know that you're not alone in your story. If you are experiencing any of the symptoms of burnout, exhaustion, cynicism or detachment, ineffective at work, there is a chance it's affecting everything else in your life, your personal life, your romantic life, right? It's Valentine's Day. I hear even, right, if we're talking Valentine's Day, how it can feel hard to be intimate with your partner, how it can feel hard to want to spend time with them, how you use them like a therapist instead of an actual partner. So how our burnout shows up at work does infiltrate every other area of our life. How we do one thing affects how we do everything. So if nothing else for today, I'm sharing my story. I'm inviting you to stay connected in my story. And I am building community here. So I am actually doing a virtual networking for women professionals next Friday. That's the 23rd at 12:30. You can sign up for that using the links in my profile. And we're not necessarily talking about burnout, but we're building a community of women professionals where we can start to learn from one another, benefit from each other, coordinate, maybe send business, right? There's a win-win-win in all of this. So I am starting that. I am starting this now. You're going to be seeing me a lot more here, but I wanted to make sure I took this moment as it means so much to me. It was the moment that changed the trajectory of my life. So I thank my Dr. Valentine, who told me that I need to look at my life differently 11 years ago. I am grateful for myself for taking this change, and I am so honoring and in complete awe of you for raising your hand, for doing this hard work, and for knowing that your life can be better. So I'm going to end this story today, but if you're joining me on the replay, do #replay, DM me your questions. You can find me everywhere, whether it's my website, acheloawellness.com, that's ACHELOA wellness.com, that's Acheloa Wellness on Instagram, that's also Lauren Baptiste on LinkedIn. So wherever you want me, you can absolutely find me. And it's just been a pleasure to share my story. I could go into, like I said, all of the nitty-gritty details, but I wanted to make sure that I shared the main highlights, the broad strokes, the main learnings, and where you can go if you're feeling burnt out. You do not have to do this on your own. There's actually something so much better for you on the other side. And 11 years later, I am proof of it. I've graduated over 100 clients. They are proof of it. And I'm just seeing the ripple effect of the benefit of just taking action. So that being said, I'm wishing you a happy Valentine's Day. May you love yourself above all else, or at least in par with all the other things that you love too. All right, bye for now.